After 10 days, I have finally arrived at Naeem Butt Shaheed's camp, which is erected here in Rawalakot, in the administrative quarters. That building there is the DC office, which has been effectively closed since this camp was erected on the 19th of April. And for those of you who are not familiar with Naeem Butt, he was martyred. He was initially shot on the 16th of March while he was taking part in a procession protesting against the indiscriminate killing of our civilians, our citizens, on either side of the LOC by India and Pakistan. And this camp, as I say, has gone into its 10th day. Many of the people have staged a hunger strike from time to time as well. And the DC is nowhere to be seen for the past 10 days, and we've got to the stage where it's quite possible that we, or the public here in Rawalakot, may nominate the following gentleman who I'm about to meet, who is a key member, if not the head of this committee, Sardar Anwar, who has spent quite a bit of his life in the Middle East, particularly in Dubai, but who's been a political worker for at least the past 40 years from what I can gather. And he's dedicated, he's committed, and he's the perfect person, I would imagine, to speak to on this particular issue. Janab Sardar Anwar Khan Sahab, I want to get an idea of how this camp came into being and what are its demands, etc., etc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tanvir, a research-based journalist. I would like to inform through this interview, through the social media, and I want to tell the world community that on 16 March there was a peace march by JKLF, and its first main purpose was to express the grievances of Kashmiri people that they are dying, they are killing by firing by both sides of the occupied forces.
Okay.
Because on borderlines, when Indian fires, then Kashmiris are being killed. When Pakistani army fires, then Kashmiris are being killed. That was the narrative that Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front organized a peace march to tell the world community that Kashmiri peoples want peace. Kashmiri peoples want demilitarization from occupied forces from this region.
Okay.
But it was a great tragedy and loss that Pakistani puppet government supported and sponsored Pakistani puppet governments, and their puppets police opened fire on peaceful march.
Okay.
And we injured more than 6 people, and our colleague, a dedicated colleague, a very committed colleague who is working peacefully for the ideology of the freedom of Jammu and Kashmir under the banner of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, under the dynamic leadership of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, that Kashmir should be liberated from both oppressors.
I understand.
He was died. He was died, and I think on 20th March.
No, on the 21st.
22nd March, he was there, and a large crowd was here, and we buried him peacefully. And we gave again a message to the world community that Kashmiri want peace. And since 22nd March, this puppet government promised that they will form a judicial commission.
Yes.
They will suspend a culprits who kill the killers of Naeem Butt Shaheed, a killer DC and a killer SP.
Okay.
But they didn't fulfill their promise.
Right.
We remind many times to the government that to fulfill their promise, we organize press conferences, we organize peaceful march, but at least we give them a deadline, and on 19th of April we are here peacefully, that suspend these killers and arrest them and make a trial, and a judicial commission which time is now be finished, and it's our demand that the judicial commission must publish the reports
Which is not doing.
which they are not doing.
Right, okay.
And one thing which we want to tell you, that killer DC and killer SP run away from here, and this is the office.
Yes.
You are seeing since last 10 days, DC, killer DC and killer SP couldn't sit in their office.
Right.
This is the victory and this of our peaceful sitting here.
Lovely.
Peaceful sittings give us a new strength to our peoples that we want peace in this region.
Right.
Now, another thing which I want to tell you, on 22nd, today is the last day of the deadline
Right.
to the government that suspend these killers and publish Judicial Commission report.
Right.
Otherwise, on 30th April, there will be a complete shutdown here. There will be a complete traffic jam here
In Rawalakot
in
city.
Rawalakot in Punch.
Right. Okay.
Because we want to show the world community that these people, this civil society, all people from all walk of the, all sphere of the life, lawyers, journalists, traders, political activists, social activists, they want peace in here. But I think those directors, those conspirators who want to destroy the peace of the Rawalakot, especially Punch, they are still backing and they are still supporting those killers. I want to tell the world community and I want to ask a question that this killer DC and killer AC is so powerful than state, so
Yeah.
powerful than parliament, so
Yes.
powerful than prime minister that they are still here.
Yes.
This is our narrative that behind this killer DC and killer SP there are some forces
Yes.
who are creating disturbance, who are creating killing in Pakistani society also, and they are also killing in our society.
I'm going to come to that. I'm going to ask you some short questions. First of all, that Naeem Butt, I understand, was such a committed worker that he would spend about half his wages on matters of public interest. He would contribute to the party affairs, and he gave a lot of time voluntarily for the struggle of freedom of the state. Is that true?
Yes, I know him.
He was one of the more committed workers.
He was such a committed, dedicated worker. He has spent more than 15 years life in Jammu Kashmir Students Liberation Front.
Right.
Then he worked day and night for the ideology of the Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front.
Yeah.
Then he went abroad in Saudi Arabia, KSA,
Uh-huh.
and after 2 or 3 years, he came back with the sentiments, with the emotions that he will work here, he will organize here Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, and he was expecting city Tahsil president
Yeah.
of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, and he, before his martyrdom, 2 months before, he organized a big program in his native village,
Right.
and he organized Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front here. He was such a committed person, and that he gives 75% time and 75% of his income to the to organize Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front.
Lovely.
The rest of his money for his wife and his children,
Right.
one children and his old father.
Okay,
It
lovely.
was his commitment.
Okay, the other question is that now you gentlemen and many of you here, residents and citizens of Punch, have been sitting here constantly for 10 days, and I think some of you have also conducted a hunger strike of sorts during this time as well. Now, how long can you keep this going, and can you keep it going until resolution? Do you think that's possible?
Definitely, we are sitting here unless the judicial report is not being published, and unless these suspected killers are not being suspended
Yeah.
and are not being arrested, because it's our demand that first of all suspend these restricted these suspected killers,
Right.
and publish the judicial commission report, and we will remain here peacefully until and unless we will not got the justice for the Naeem Butt Shaheed.
Okay. Now the other thing is that Naeem Butt Shaheed, he lives in a place called Chota Gala, which I understand is around about roughly 35 to 40 kilometers from the LOC. He was not a direct victim. Nobody in his family was killed, but from what I understand, this is the height of selflessness for someone who's not directly affected, but who is marching and protesting. For those people, who are not directly related to him, but they are his co-citizens who are being killed on the LOC. That is also a factor, I think, which illuminates and which elevates the sacrifice and martyrdom of Naeem Butt. Would you concur with that?
Mr. Tanvir, I know personally Mr. Naeem Butt since last 20 years,
Yeah.
and he was such a dedicated person, and he knows that his motherland is divided
Yes.
by both of the oppressors, by Indian and Pakistani army. He wanted peace. He wanted a classless society where all peoples of the Jammu and Kashmir peoples live together. He was struggling since last 20 years to unite his divided motherland. That is why he was committed and he was so much emotional in peace march that stop firing. We want peace. He went there to bring peace, but he died, sacrificed his today for the tomorrow of his nation. This is the great sacrifices, and I would like to add something here. Okay, in 1984, one Makbul Butt Shaheed was
Yes.
hanged,
Yes.
and he changed the narratives of the, and he changed the mindset of the Kashmiri youth, and the world has seen that there was a big revolution in Indian occupied Kashmir. And I would like to add that Naeem Butt Shaheed was killed by Pakistani supported and puppet police and so-called hidden forces, I think. And this Naeem Butt Shaheed martyrdom and his killing will set a new trends for a
Okay.
youth. And now he's a hope, and he is the icon of the coming youth, and he will set a new direction and new dimensions for the coming generation.
Okay, and my final question is that when somebody is killed in Srinagar or in other parts of the valley, now usually crowd control is the responsibility of crowd control is given to J&K police over there. Okay, it's really that the army or the other paramilitary organizations they really engage on the streets of Srinagar. It's usually the J&K police. Now, when they kill peaceful protesters, the narrative coming from Pakistan and from other people who support Pakistan's position on Kashmir is that our citizens on the other side of Kashmir have been killed by the Indian army. That is the common narrative that emerges from that side. Now, when the very same thing happens here, when a peaceful protester on this side is killed in a similar manner for protesting for what is his right, essentially, the finger does not automatically fall on Pakistan's hands. Is that something to do with how politics in this region has developed in the past 70 years? Or is there some other reason for that?
This is a very important question, and I will give you a narrative and the direction and the designs behind this this 70 years.
Okay.
First of all, I would like to give you my narratives. Okay, what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir? No doubt, Indian army is a killer. Indian army are rapists.
Yes.
They are human killers. And other sides where Pakistan army has controlled these two regions, Gilgit-Baltistan is directly controlled by Pakistan, where Pakistani establishment has created a sectarian virus under
Yes.
the name of Shia and Sunni,
Yes.
and they divided the faith, and they divided the spirit of people of Gilgit-Baltistan, and this was designed by Pakistan government and Pakistan establishment.
Yes.
In so-called AJK, Pakistan government has planted their political parties and political firms here, and they divided this region, AJK, so-called AJK, in tribalism,
Yeah.
in different sectarianism, in different their political forms. In this way, I think the thing which I want to tell you, that on Kashmir issue, Indian establishment and Pakistan establishment are on same page,
Right.
because both Indian and Pakistan army are consumed their 75% budget on the name of defense, under the shelter and under the shadow of Kashmir issue. If Kashmir issue is saved, then what their army generals and their army will do. In
Yes.
this way, I would add new things, that Indian and Pakistan army are basically weapon traders firms for the international imperialists. Those countries who are producing weapons, who are manufacturing weapons, they are the purchaser of those weapons, and they are the dealers of weapons in this region. In this way, on one side you have seen that there is a Modiism.
Okay.
There is a Modiism, and RSS and RA has planted and divided Kashmiris in Jammu and in Valley. Same from this region you will see that Pakistan establishment have divided Jammu and Kashmir into Mullaism and into militarism. This Mullaism, this militarism, and this Modiism is not only dangerous for Kashmiri people but also dangerous for this region, for the whole region.
Sure.
Because before weapons were manufactured to sell, before weapons were manufactured to sell to fight wars. No wars are manufactured to sell weapons, because in wars of Afghanistan weapons are being sold. In wars of Yemen and Saudi, weapons are being sold. In war in Syria, weapons are being sold. In war in Kashmir, our weapons are being sold, and weapons are tested on Kashmiri people, innocent people. This is a tragedy. In this way, we want Kashmir as a human, a living place, peaceful place, not a nuclear test laboratory between India and Pakistan.
Okay, one absolutely final question, which would just require a short answer from you, maybe even in yes or no. The cost of the martyrdom of Naeem Butt, is the cost of that martyrdom the freedom of this so-called Azad Jammu and Kashmir?
I think.
Can we achieve that
I think.
milestone?
I think martyrdom of Naeem Butt Shaheed will set a new trends, and I think it's a worth of Kashmir, it's increase and develop Kashmiri nationalism.
Okay.
Second thing, price of the martyrdom, price of the freedom fighter is only the reward is in the shape of freedom.
Okay.
I think the reward of Naeem Butt Shaheed, reward of Makbul Butt Shaheed, reward of Ishfaq Mujid Wani Shaheed will be in the form of independent and prosperous Kashmir and free Kashmir from India and Pakistan, and that Kashmir will be a bridge of friendship between India, Pakistan and China. That Kashmir will be a trade route between India, Pakistan and China, not a nuclear test laboratory between India, Pakistan and China.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Sardar Anwar Saab, for that lengthy, extensive and detailed conversation. And I want people to keep tuned, because this thing will be going forward, and the people here are committed, determined, and on average, my experience of the whole of AJK is that this region, perhaps places like Rawalakot, to some extent Palandri, and most certainly Hajira, are the hotspots, are the places where the people are comparatively more alive in terms of public interest than all other parts of AJK. That's my observation. Thank you very much for watching.